All right. Well, welcome back to the 1807 Kriegsspiel. It's 0400 June 7th, 1807. Go figure. Let's update because it's dawn. It's dawn an hour ago, and I wanted to bring everybody up to speed as to what folks are looking at because this is going to be a big day. Our friend Lestock is going to be marching back this way, back to Königsberg, and guarding against nothing. He doesn't know that, but he's going to be guarding against nothing. Our friends here are getting ready to organize. They're watching this way, which I certainly don't blame them for. This is the commander, Benningsen. He's sitting here at Eylau, sort of overwatching the whole thing. He's going to be trooping down this way. This is the big story, of course, here at Bartenstein. I've just told Barclay de Tolly that he's got a corps of French sitting just to his south, and they're getting ready to deploy. Obviously, that's Mortier that's doing it. And over here, he hasn't seen him. He hasn't seen anything but the cavalry patrols of Bernadotte. Now, Bernadotte and Mortier have been ordered by Napoleon to attack at 0700. It's 0400, so it's a little bit before they're ordered to attack. Ney is also coming north. So they've got one, two, and this is a very, very light corps because Ney's troops have been stripped away from him a little bit. But you've got 1, 2 full corps and this corps. The problem is the Russians have an awful lot of guys, and they have the defensive line of the Aller River, which is not a small matter. They've also, for what it's worth, spotted each other here guarding Schippenbeil. Over here, we have the Dragoons of Melot. That's Murat. That is not Bessieres' boys, which are marching up here to Rhun. They're making their way from here to here to here, and then eventually to Rostenburg. Here's Murat. He's getting ready to ride all the way here to Rostenburg. If he could, he's behind the ball a little bit tempo-wise. If it were a day later, he'd be set up for a great chance to come in on the flank up this way. That's not there yet. We'll see what develops. Certainly, Murat in this campaign has been a bold commander. Here's Lannes. He's been ordered to march north. You can see he's already starting to do it. And he's making his way up here. So he, too, is a little behind the march distances because he's keeping at pace, which is 3.5, which means in a 10-hour day, you're going to get 35 kilometers in. Just doing a little bit of simple math. Doesn't get him to Bischofstein by the end of the day, probably, unless he really continues to push his guys, which he could certainly do. And you can see where Napoleon is. I neglected. It's funny. I'm always forgetting these guys. It's absolutely cruel. They're continuing their march. I'm actually going to do a little bit of live Kriegsspiel here for you. And they'll have to park because Lobanov's boys, 13 kilometers. So that's a huge column. They are trying to make their way all the way down here to Eylau. So they've got just forever to march. They'll get there. We saw Murat. Here's the real bind-up, and boy, oh boy, does Tolstoy get a lot of credit. Overnight, he marched out from this crossing right here. He's now marching all the way to this one, trying to lure Davout and Soult to be nowhere near the main French effort, and that's what he's done. And then finally here, we have Massena dutifully, most dutifully, making his way to Ostrolenka, which he is trying so hard to do. So, again, the big story today is certainly going to be the Battle of Bartenstein. It's not the Battle of Eylau. It's not the Battle of Friedland. It's the Battle of Bartenstein. Weather die roll at 3 o'clock was clear, so there'll be no effect on fatigue or movement due to the weather. And I guess we'll have to see. You'll also notice, in case you're wondering, these fellows are deployed out. Now, they won't be in battle that way. This is just my way of reminding myself that Mortier has ordered them to deploy for battle. They can see that. In Flight of the Eagle, troops don't necessarily, troops don't just rush into battle and automatically fight. They have to deploy, as they did historically. There is a fight box, which you may have seen me mention before. Let me go grab it. There's my fight box. It is 5 kilometers on a side, so this is actually the size of a fight. So they're not really inside it yet. So if you figure Bartenstein is our center, that's what it'll look like. It'll be somewhere in that vicinity. Now, these troops, these blocks are a little bigger than they should be. They should just be a line, so I'll have to reconfigure them. In addition, Combat, to remind you all, in Flight of the Eagle is left, center, right. They have a maximum number of men that can fit in each. So once they get a little closer to the fight, we'll see if they march off any sooner than 7 o'clock. We will have a deployment phase where they'll have to tell me who's left, center, right. And then we'll have a whole lot of dice rolling to do, which maybe we'll share with you all in a later video. Anyway, here is the totality of 0400 on June 7th. There's an awful lot of stuff going on. Sorry for all the rulers and such, but it really does help make my life a lot better. And we shall see what comes in subsequent turns. But again, the Battle of Bartenstein is going to be quite a thing.